38. Thanks for the early adopters, if you will, the early viewers. Just getting this up and running, so bear with me for just a second while we get our stream up and running here on this Wednesday evening. It's part 2 of severe weather coverage this evening. It's really part 3 for the day. Been kind of a crazy, crazy day. Alright, so I think we're everywhere where we need to be. And so... Alright, getting our live stream up and running here just before 9:40 p.m. Bear with me for just a moment here while I get things rolling. Alright, looks like I'm going to be off camera for this one. That's fine. Alright, so you're not going to see me on camera for this one. A little technical difficulty on my end, but that's alright. We'll make it work. 9:40 p.m. and we had one round of severe weather this afternoon, another one early this evening, a couple of tornado warnings in parts of our area earlier on, and now, as we approach the 10 o'clock hour, we're watching a mondo band of warned storms approaching from the west, and this includes one tornado warning that was issued by the National Weather Service office in Cleveland earlier on in the 9 o'clock hour, as some rotation was observed around Hudson and heading over towards Boston Mills ski area, and that tornado warning runs for another 5 minutes. It goes through the northern part of Portage County, southeastern Geauga. Remains to be seen if it will be extended farther east. My guess is at this point is that it will not be extended farther east to catch northwestern Trumbull, just based on the latest radar data. Certainly some very strong winds, but the rotation to me looks pretty marginal at this point. But our main concern tonight is certainly going to be the wind. And you know my spiel, if you've been watching my coverage for any time now, wind is wind, and high-end severe thunderstorm warnings can produce the same kind of damage that tornado warnings, especially low-end tornadoes, EF0s, EF1s. You can get winds that are about the same as those tornadoes in strong to severe thunderstorms. So we're going to treat this line as it comes east seriously, because even though I think the line overall is undergoing some weakening, at least in portions of the line, it's still pretty strong. And as you can see, all up and down this line of storms, we have severe thunderstorm warnings out. Now, to me, the strongest part of the entire line is the northern part of it. It's where we see all this lightning right here. I'm going to stop the radar loop. Where we see all this lightning right here. This is probably the strongest section of this line of storms, and this is going to be mostly aimed at northern Trumbull and especially up into Geauga and Ashtabula counties. Further to the south, I think the line is still pretty strong, but there's not as much lightning, and so that leads me to believe that this portion of the line down here is not quite as strong as the portion of the line off to the north that's getting set to impact northeast Ohio. All right, so all of this is something we have to keep an eye on, that is for sure, because this line has had a history of producing wind damage as it's pushed east. And this is kind of the main show. This is what we've been talking about for a couple of days now, but what was a little bit of a surprise today was the first 2 rounds of heavy weather that we went through. One was mid-afternoon, and one was early in the evening. We had a couple of tornado warnings in our area for a time. One around 6 p.m. or just after 6 p.m. for southwestern Mahoning out into Portage and northeastern Stark. We also had a tornado warning during the 7 o'clock hour and parts of the 8 o'clock hour for northeastern Columbiana County, southwestern Lawrence, parts of Beaver. That action is long gone, but here comes our main line. This is what we have been expecting. Everything else is a little bit of a bonus, if you will, earlier on today. So, again, this tornado warning that is in effect for northern Portage, southeastern Geauga, is set to expire coming up in about 3 minutes. When we look at the Cleveland velocity data, the wind velocity data off the Cleveland radar, boy, this is strong wind in through here, tornado or not. You know, we're sampling some gusts here on the leading edge of this, coming through portions of extreme northern Portage and southeastern Geauga We're sampling some gusts here of 50 to 60 miles per hour. The Cleveland Hopkins Airport on the west side of Cleveland did have a gust, I believe it was something like 55 earlier on in the 9 o'clock hour, so there's some ground truth to this. And so these storms really do mean some business. Now, when we go to sample the winds off to the south, let's bring on our wind data again, and I'll sample what's going through the Canton area right now. And you can see the winds down here are not nearly as strong off the radar. These may be a little too low, what I'm sampling, but you don't see much evidence down there of winds of 50 plus miles per hour moving through Stark County down to Tuscarawas County as well. Strong storms, yes, but are they as strong as what's going through northern Portage, southeastern Geauga? I kind of doubt it at this point. All right, so this line is moving eastward rather quickly. I'm going to take off the warning information and give you some ballpark times as to when you can expect the leading edge of this. Let's say on average this is moving at about 50 miles per hour. These warnings from the Weather Service has the forward speed anywhere between 45 and I've seen as high as 60. So let's average it and say 50. That would put it coming into our western viewing area, say Newton Falls, down to Lake Milton, down to Beloit, down to Sebring, probably towards the top of the hour here, 10 after 10, something like that. Warren down to Canfield, down to Austintown, probably 10 to 10:20. The greater Youngstown area a few minutes after that, putting it towards the state line, towards the Ohio-Pennsylvania state line at about 10:35, 10:40, 10:45, somewhere in that vicinity. This will most likely clear I-79 then, eastern Mercer County, eastern Lawrence County, by 11 o'clock or so. Again, these things are moving pretty fast, and these are just ballpark times. And keep in mind, if you're watching our streaming coverage, that by nature, streaming coverage is always a couple of minutes behind real time. So what you're hearing me say right now, I actually said, several seconds or almost a minute ago. But anyway, when I give you these ballpark times, keep in mind that they all are ballpark and not to be taken exactly. But that what I just showed you there will give you kind of a general sense as to what we expect in terms of the timing. All right, so here at 9:45, they did allow the tornado warning to expire in northeastern Portage. They have a tornado possible tag on the portion of the warning that's in effect for Lake and Geauga counties. The threat tag being considerable is on the warning down in Portage County. You see up here in the banner, see these threats up here? These are what we call tags that go onto the warnings. That means that these severe thunderstorm warnings are a little more serious than just your typical run-of-the-mill or base severe thunderstorm warning. These are particularly severe thunderstorms. Sometimes that means they just have really, really strong winds, and sometimes that means that there could be enough rotation that they bear watching for any tornadic activity. Thanks to everyone who sent us in some pictures and video. We got a lot of pictures and video from our viewers this evening of the very vivid weather that we had today, whether it be vivid rainbows or more seriously vivid lowerings of the cloud base. We had some wall clouds, we had some shelf clouds, we had some funnel clouds here and there, but there was never a threat of a tornado touching the ground with any of the activity earlier on today. It was very impressive structurally, supercell structures, stuff that was very, very photogenic, but thankfully we have not seen any reports of any tornadoes touching the ground. But we did have some wind damage in some spots earlier on, especially with that mid-afternoon round that moved through parts of Trumbull into Mercer. We had a swath of wind damage kind of up here around north of I-80 from that mid-afternoon round, the round that went through East Palestine and places like that early this evening. We haven't seen too much in the way of problems with wind damage with that round of storms. Boy, they were very, very photogenic storms, that is for sure. Again, I'll take off the warning information here to make this a little cleaner to see, and then I'll put a loop on our radar. If you're heading to bed soon, I would recommend making sure your devices are charged before you head to bed tonight, in case we do lose power for a time. Make sure you can be woken up if you're going to bed here shortly. And just in case we have some dangerous weather crossing your location, you want to make sure that you can be awakened. And the Storm Tracker 21 app, you can, of course, download that. Make sure you have that on your smart device if you take that to bed with you. And make sure you have the push alerts turned on and you're not in do not disturb mode or things like that. Make sure that you can be woken up. And I say that a lot when we talk about, thunderstorms that are moving in after dark when some people are heading off to bed. I wouldn't expect as many power outages locally as Off to our west, lots and lots of power outages in western Ohio as a result of this line pushing through. But there may be some. All right, so we're going to get our first severe thunderstorm warning from this line in our viewing area, and that warning is for Mahoning County. Let's bring that up. Mahoning and Trumbull, I should say. So here we go. All of Mahoning, all of Trumbull in a severe thunderstorm warning, and as you can see, they included the tornado possible tag on this. This warning runs until 11 o'clock. The Weather Service offices in Cleveland and Pittsburgh have been pretty proactive this evening in issuing warnings for areas well ahead of time. This line is still a ways off to the west, and the warning is in effect for an hour and 12 minutes. That's pretty long for a warning to be in effect, but they're just assuming that the entire line is going to get a warning at some point. So they're issuing these warnings with more lead time than maybe is average. So that's why they just pulled the trigger here at 9:48 p.m. on a severe thunderstorm warning that's just entering the central part of Portage County and central parts of Stark County as well. And that warning runs until 11. So I'll draw your attention again to the tornado possible tag up here in the banner. They put these tags in the severe thunderstorm warnings when it's a severe thunderstorm warning, but the storm has had a history, or at least has the potential of occasionally showing some signs of rotation. I'm looking at my off-camera radar source here, and I don't see a lot that really concerns me all that much in terms of rotation. There's some very strong winds, though, coming into Windham, coming into Garrettsville, in eastern parts of Portage County. I mean, the wind is, it's serious in through here. So we need to take this seriously downstream in places like Mesopotamia, Southington, Newton Falls as well. As this gets a little bit closer to the county line, it wouldn't be a bad idea to treat this as if it were a tornado warning, because these winds could be up to 60, 70 miles per hour, which is the same as an EF0 tornado. So let me show you what I mean here and bring up the wind velocity data off the Cleveland radar source. And here we go. We're going to query a couple of these around Garrettsville. 50 to 60 mile per hour winds being sampled off the radar. Keep in mind, when we sample these wind gusts, we're getting a little bit farther away from the Cleveland radar source here, and because of the curvature of the Earth, the radar beam gains in elevation as it moves out from the radar source. So we're actually sampling the storm not down at the ground, but up at least a couple of thousand feet. And so we're not truly sampling what's going on at the ground, but oftentimes in thunderstorms, what's going on a few thousand feet above our heads can be brought down to the ground, and I have no doubt that that is the case this time around as well. Again, off to the south, I'm not as impressed with the look of things once you're down into Stark County and down into Tuscarawas County along I-77. Not as much lightning down here, probably some gusty winds, no doubt, but these storms don't look quite as healthy. Also, we have a severe thunderstorm warning that has been in effect for a while for extreme southern, or western parts, I should say, of Columbiana County, near the Stark County line, but this storm is still a ways off. This warning has been in effect for a while for places like North Georgetown and Chambersburg, and heading over towards the Minerva area along the county line as well. The warning that was just issued a few moments ago is for all of Mahoning and all of Trumbull. We don't always see entire counties be put under warnings. It happens sometimes. More often than not, they issue warnings in polygon kind of shapes, irregular shapes, if you will. But when we have a squall line like this, they don't bother drawing some sort of, funny shape. They just put the entire county under the warning, because why not? It's going to impact the entire county. Some of the isolated activity we had earlier on this evening was just that. It was isolated. It wasn't impacting entire counties, that's for sure. But this line, as it pushes through, can certainly impact entire counties, including all of Trumbull and all of Mahoning. So heads up from Newton Falls on north, especially. Newton Falls up to Southington and up to Mesopotamia. We've got some strong winds pushing in. Braceville, heading up towards Farmington. 50 mile per hour plus winds seem to be knocking on your door probably in the next 15 minutes. Make sure that your loose outdoor items are secure. Wouldn't be a bad idea to seek shelter from this. Treat it as if it were a tornado warning, even though it is a severe thunderstorm warning, because we're sampling some winds here, some radar indicated winds of 50 to 60 miles per hour. That can be enough to cause some problems. We're getting some bad data here. See those green colors? We're going to ignore those. We're going to wait for the next scan, actually, of the radar to sample that wind data again, because the last scan returned some bad data there. green colors are not supposed to show up on that radar product. So we'll go back to our regular radar here, and I'll actually take off the warning information again and put another loop on this. We're coming up to 9:52, and all of this is moving east at about 50-ish, maybe 55 miles per hour. If you want to see some of the pictures that were shared with us this afternoon, head over to either my Instagram, my Facebook, or my X or Twitter accounts, and I shared them on those platforms earlier on, and we got a lot of pictures. I just shared a few. Can't share them all, of course, but I shared a few of the really good ones. We had some really vivid pictures from the earlier activity, so be sure and check that out if you follow me on social media. Make sure you're following the Storm Tracker 21 accounts on social media as well as the rest of our team, whether it be Andrew or Jody or Jimmy. In the meantime, we're coming up here to the top of the hour. This stuff is moving very quickly. It's going to come in and out and do its dirty work in any one location in 5 or 10 minutes. The bad weather is only going to be in your location for a handful of minutes, and then it'll keep moving. And I think this pretty much clears our viewing area. It gets over east of I-79 and into interior Pennsylvania, probably as we head towards 11 o'clock, 11:15 or so. This is faster than a lot of the weather modeling had earlier on today, and that is often the case when you see a squall line of storms. A lot of times it outruns, if you will, the weather modeling, in this case being no exception. We were kind of pinpointing 10 p.m. to midnight. I think this is out of here by 11:15 or so in terms of our television market, and the far eastern parts of our television market include eastern Mercer County and northeastern Lawrence County as well. Bring up the storm reports from earlier on today in case you're just getting caught up with the weather this evening as we approach 10 o'clock. A lot of reports. A lot of this activity in our viewing area was from mid-afternoon. We had a 58 mile per hour gust at the Youngstown Warren Airport. We had a lot of tree damage and some power lines down in parts of Mercer County, extreme northern parts of Lawrence as well. A lot of this activity off to our east, or a lot of these storm reports, I should say, are from this evening. And then look at all the reports out in western Ohio into Indiana. It's been a very, very busy 12 hours across our area. We some of the video and some of the pictures we had from earlier on today were from too much water on area roads and in some people's yards and things like that. Some radar estimates here, but especially around Warren and even parts of Mahoning County and Mercer County. Over the last 12 hours, there's been upwards of 1 inch to 2 inches or so worth of rain locally, while other places, such as down here closer to Route 39 in southern Columbiana County, hardly a drop. It just goes to show how, these things happen sometimes in the summer season. Some places get slammed, and other places not so much. All right, so 9:55, we have a severe thunderstorm warning in effect until 11 o'clock for Mahoning and Trumbull counties. You're also under a severe thunderstorm warning for now in western Columbiana. I would expect the rest of Columbiana County to be put under a severe thunderstorm warning at some point here in the next half an hour or so, even though the line is probably not as strong once you get down kind of in this zone, the I-77 corridor from Canton to New Philly. It's strong. Maybe it's not quite as strong, though, as off to the north, closer to Ravenna, and especially north of there, up into Geauga County, and heading through Lake County towards Ashtabula County. Once we get past tonight's activity, there'll be a smattering or a scattering of showers and storms on our Thursday. Severe weather risks appear to be lower on Thursday, more garden variety activity. It'll still be muggy through late afternoon, and then we should be in for a very nice Thursday night. Maybe open up the windows Thursday night as the humidity will finally come down. And we'll get a little break from the humidity, but only a little one, because by Saturday afternoon, and especially Sunday, boy, is it going to get hot. The hottest weather of the season so far is coming our way. Thanks to everyone who's tuning in this evening, whether you're watching on the Storm Tracker 21 app, the WFMJ.com website, the 21 News app, or on my YouTube channel, my Facebook as well. We're streaming on all of those platforms right now. Thanks for watching. We've got a pretty good audience out there tonight. This is actually round 3 of Interesting weather we've had today. The first two rounds, weren't really well weather modeled by the weather modeling or human forecasters, to be honest. A little bit of a surprise just how strong to severe those storms were for a time this afternoon and early this evening. Now, this line that's pushing through, this is what we expected. This is a little more what was advertised. But the first two rounds, maybe not so much. All right, I'll stop our radar loop and we'll zoom back in on a few of our local areas. Now, again, if you're watching us from western Trumbull, that's where the worst weather is right now. Heavy weather with strong winds pushing into the Farmington area, heading down towards Southington, Braceville, heads up in Newton Falls as well. And then eventually this comes off to the east, and so you don't have long to get ready for this in Champion and Bristol, and heading over towards the Warren area where we've already had some nasty storms earlier on today. We do have a few isolated downpours around Fowler and heading over towards Route 7, Hartford area. Down Route 7 closer to Hubbard, a couple of downpours, also an isolated downpour over here in Lawrence County, Pulaski over towards New Wilmington as well, Neshannock. But this is where the worst of the weather is. It's just about coming into western parts of Trumbull County as we speak, and also heads up off to the south. If you're watching us from closer to Craig Beach, Lake Milton area, and then eventually Berlin Center, this is heading your way. The farther south you are, the less impressive looking the line is in terms of the amount of lightning and also in terms of what is showing up wind-wise on our radar products. So we hope that weakening trend will continue. But I think the line is not quite as severe once you get down towards Canton, Dover, New Philly, Uhrichsville. Strong, yes, maybe not as severe as areas off to the north. In fact, I'll check some of the latest observations from airports that this is moving through right now. We don't have a fresh observation in New Philly. Let's check the Canton-Akron airport. We had a gust to 33 at 9:51, but 53 at 9:41. So 18 minutes ago, we had a gust over 50 miles per hour at CAK, which is the airport, of course, near the Stark-Summit County line. Strong, yes, for sure. Very noticeable. Let's bring up our Cleveland velocity data. And here you go, where you get these brighter colors. We're talking winds of 40 to 50 plus miles per hour, perhaps even close to 60 in some spots. Right on the leading edge, and the leading edge is coming through Southington right now. It's coming into the greater Newton Falls area. Heads up in Mesopotamia and Farmington, it's coming through. And downstream of that, again, it's coming in just a couple of minutes. This is moving quickly, so you don't have long to get ready for this in Bristol and Champion and Warren and eventually Lordstown as well. Down in Mahoning County, we're coming towards Lake Milton, Craig Beach here in the next couple of minutes. Within the next 10 or 15 minutes, heads up Berlin Center, North Jackson, Ellsworth, and then eventually over towards Route 46, Austintown area, and the 11 corridor from Austintown to Canfield, and over towards Boardman and Youngstown. Heads up, it'll be towards the bottom of the hour, closer to 10:30. Now, if you're watching us from Columbiana County, you've missed out on a lot of this activity in central and southern Columbiana County today. You're saying, where's the storms in Lisbon and East Liverpool? But you'll get your chance here in the next hour or so. It'll probably take until closer to 11 o'clock, 10:45, 11, before this reaches kind of Wellsville, East Liverpool, East Palestine, and crosses the state line over into western PA. Let's take off our spilled bucket of paint here, and I'll bring up the regular radar with all the lightning on it. As you can see, when we zoom off to the north here, there's a lot of lightning. We're sampling over 200 strikes of lightning within, our screenshot here, which is basically the northern edge or the northern section of this line. So some vivid lightning and quite a bit of wind moving through the Southington area right now up towards the northwestern parts of Trumbull County. This warning runs until 11 o'clock. It's a severe thunderstorm warning. I'm going to check that latest observation at Harry Cleaver Field, which is in New Philadelphia, in Tuscarawas County. Looks like there was a gust there to 28 at 9:58. So there's a little ground truth there to what I'm saying in terms of this looks a little weaker down in this section. So as this section of the line pushes east and perhaps impacts parts of Columbiana County, I think your severe weather chances are probably somewhat lower there than they are off to the north. All right, so the newest warning just issued moments ago by the National Weather Service office in Pittsburgh covers the rest of Columbiana County and covers a good chunk of Mercer and Lawrence counties as well. And you can, again, the Weather Service offices are being pretty proactive tonight in issuing these warnings well ahead of the line and for entire counties, basically. And so almost our entire viewing area now is under a severe thunderstorm warning. It's all of Columbiana. It's all of Mahoning. It's all of Trumbull and a good chunk of both Mercer and Lawrence, even though, again, once you're closer to the state line and over into Mercer and Lawrence, it's going to be a little while. It's going to be till 11 o'clock or so before some of this activity heads your way. Those warnings, by the way, let's query the freshest warnings that were just issued. These run until 11. Again, in the far eastern part of these warning boxes, if you're watching us from Newcastle, it may be 11:15 really before you start to see some of the activity over there. So they may have to extend the current warning and issue a new warning sometime as we get closer to 11 o'clock for the rest of Lawrence and Mercer. But that's down the road a piece. We'll come back to that momentarily. Let me do another storm track here in case you're just joining our live stream. We're streaming live this evening as we head past the top of the hour, past 10 o'clock because of the line of thunderstorms moving through. On average, let's say this is moving at about 50 miles per hour. So some approximate clock times here. And again, emphasis on approximate. We're talking right now, Newton Falls basically, or over the next handful of minutes. Closer to 10:15, 10:20 in Warren. Youngstown closer to the bottom of the hour, 10:30 or so. Once you're down towards East Liverpool, 10:45 to 11, something like that. Probably 11 to 11:10. Mercer down towards Newcastle and everywhere in between. And, east of I-79 and essentially out of our viewing area probably as we head towards 11:20 to 11:30. And the rest of the night, we will be in the clear from severe weather. Severe thunderstorm watch, by the way, in case you missed that. Focusing a lot on the warnings tonight, but real quickly, the severe thunderstorm watch is for all the counties in yellow. And just a reminder, the difference between a watch and a warning. A watch is kind of a heads up that conditions may be favorable for a certain type of weather. A warning means that that kind of weather, whether it be a tornado warning, a flash flood warning, a severe thunderstorm warning, that kind of weather is happening now or about to happen. So that's what a warning is. A watch is more of a heads up, and those are issued usually several hours ahead of time in advance of a potential severe weather episode. All right, so yeah, really getting windy in western Trumbull County. Wouldn't be surprised if in Champion we have some 50-plus mile per hour winds coming through. These winds have been blowing through Southington. It's coming into Bristol right now. It's been blowing into Mesopotamia over the last 5 or 10 minutes. Your turn is coming if you're in Lordstown, if you're in North Jackson. This is coming into Craig Beach right now. Berlin Center, you just have a couple of minutes before this pushes in. Sebring, Beloit, probably 10 to 15 minutes from right now, this line will push in. The line gets a little less severe off to the south, but nonetheless, severe thunderstorm warnings are out for Columbiana County. So if you're watching us from Hanoverton and closer to the Stark County line, it's going to get windy with some rain and some rumbles of thunder here in the next 20 minutes or so. If you're watching us from Lisbon, Salineville, heading over towards East Liverpool, up towards Rogers, Nigley, East Palestine, it's going to be probably past 10:30, between 10:30 and 11, that this line impacts a lot of those communities. Now, we're going to keep this live stream running for a little while here in the 10 o'clock hour. As we get closer to 11, I'm going to have to stop the live stream and get us ready for 21 News. At 11 o'clock, as long as we don't have any tornado warnings, our newscast will proceed as normal. If you watched our newscast at 6 o'clock, we had to go all weather all the time, starting at about 6:10 or something like that, because of the tornado warning for southwestern Mahoning. So we didn't have much of a newscast at 6. Hopefully at 11 we'll have a full newscast for anybody who wants to stay up late and watch us on air or online as well. Let's bring up the wind data here. It's impressive stuff. This is wind to take seriously. It's coming into the greater Warren area in the next 5 or 10 minutes. 40, 50 plus miles per hour coming in. And again, a lot of the communities I just named, you don't have long to get ready for this. In places like Lordstown, it's coming in the next couple of minutes. These strong winds will also impact Mineral Ridge and eventually the Howland area, Weathersfield, Girard, Cortland, Vienna. All this is coming your way before the bottom of the hour. And these winds certainly mean some business. In fact, I'll put a loop on the on the winds. You see these brighter colors. These are stronger winds. The brighter the colors are, the stronger they are. The reds and pinks are winds that are blowing away from the Cleveland radar source, which is near the Cleveland Hopkins International Airport on the west side of Cleveland. That's where the data is coming from. And so that's some strong westerly winds pushing in. Wind is wind. It doesn't have to be a tornado to produce a lot of problems. I'm, not real concerned at this point about an actual tornado from any of this. We've been on guard for any sort of, kink, if you will, in the line. Trained eyes, meteorologists look for little squiggles or kinks in a line like this, an quickly advancing line of severe thunderstorms, but I'm not seeing a lot of evidence of that right now. But straight line winds, that's serious business sometimes, and this is no exception. And I think Trumbull County especially is going to be susceptible to these strong winds over the next half an hour or so, perhaps eventually into Mercer as well. Less concerned about the wind down in Mahoning and Columbiana, but my concern is not zero, certainly. We're going to keep watching this as it comes out to the east. Just looking at a few of my off-camera sources here, including our chat with the National Weather Service. They are not indicating that they see any malfeasance, if you will, along this line of thunderstorms. Strong winds, yes, but in terms of any rotation or any tornado threats, so far so good. The tornado warning that was out earlier over into northern Portage, parts of Geauga County, that was allowed to expire at, I believe, 9:45. Thankfully, no new warning has been needed in terms of a tornado warning. But yeah, especially in Trumbull County, heads up. Northwestern Mahoning, I should say, also heads up. These winds mean some business. They are coming east quickly, and we could see gusts of 50-plus miles per hour. Mentioned earlier, I was looking at some of the official observations at regional airports as this pushed through. Down in New Philadelphia, the wind was sub-severe down there, but at Canton-Akron Airport, looks like the strongest wind gust over there was, looks like it'll probably be 53, and that was at 9:41. That was about a half an hour ago, and this moved through kind of the Canton and Akron areas. It gusted to over 50 miles per hour over there. So most weather observations that are official, part of the National Weather Service network, they are at airports. We realize, of course, no one lives at the airport, but in order to maintain some consistency across the network of observations, they tend to be sited at airports, hopefully away from runways and things like that. But that's usually the way it works. Somewhere at an airport near you, if you've ever been to an airport, there's probably an official weather sensor somewhere near that airport that we rely on for official observations. For our TV viewing area, that of course is the Youngstown Warren Airport in Vienna. That is where our official observations for our region are taken from. If you've ever visited that airport, you'll find a weather station out there somewhere that supplies our area with the official observations. When this line moves across Vienna and across the Youngstown Warren Airport, probably in about 20 minutes or so, maybe a little less than that, we'll get an official reading there and see what is doing with this as it comes east. But the radar estimated wind gusts are certainly impressive. Coming through Warren, coming towards Cortland, 40, 50 plus miles per hour. We don't want to forget about northwestern Mahoning as well. Some bright colors down here towards Lake Milton, towards Craig Beach. Yeah, probably 40 to 50 down here as well. All right, so a recap for those just joining us on the stream. Thanks for watching our live streaming coverage this evening. We'll get on 21 News and WBCB if we have any tornado warnings issued. Right now, I don't think that's likely to happen, but these are higher-end severe thunderstorms moving into parts of our area, especially our northern areas, north of Route 224, say. These storms particularly mean business kind of in this zone through here. Once you're south of 224, The severe weather threat may be somewhat lower, but I'm impressed with how this looks. Coming into Warren right now, and it's been moving through Bristol, heads up in Mecca. This is coming across Mosquito Lake, over towards Johnston, over towards Fowler, and eventually down towards the airbase in Vienna. And, as we head towards the bottom of the hour here, it'll be your turn in Girard and Austintown and Mineral Ridge and Niles, and heading down towards Canfield as well. It'll probably be after the bottom of the hour, sometime between 10:30 and 11 o'clock, for areas around Youngstown, Struthers, Poland, heading down towards New Middletown, Columbiana, East Palestine, and then especially once you're down towards the Ohio River and closer to the state line. It's going to be closer to 11 before a lot of this activity pushes your way, so you have time to get ready for this if you live in some of those communities that I just mentioned. Yeah, it seems to me the worst of our weather is going to be with this section right here. Mecca, Johnston, Cortland, Mosquito Lake area. Heading over towards Kinsman eventually. That's probably where the strongest winds are. Again, I'll draw your attention to the tornado possible tag up here in the banner. They've been issuing these warnings occasionally with tags like that to indicate that maybe there's still a possibility of some rotation. I don't see much evidence of rotation right now on the radar data, but that's not to say it can't happen. Fresh scan may reveal some possible rotation, but right now I'm not very concerned about that. This southern section of the line, as I take off the warning data, and we'll put a radar loop on this. The southern section of the line is strong. Maybe not quite as strong as to the north, but this is coming into Carrollton right now, Delroy. It's coming towards Hanoverton and New Garden and Sebring, Beloit, Salem eventually in the next 10 or 15 minutes. This is coming your way, and it's going to be strong. Whether you see a 60-mile-per-hour wind gust, it remains to be seen. It's more likely off to your north, but we don't want to let down our guard on that southern flank, because, again, it can still mean some business. Speaking of meaning business, the leading edge up here in Trumbull, again, continues to be impressive what we're sampling off the radar here. 50-mile-per-hour plus gusts coming into the Mosquito Lake area. So severe weather definitely occurring up there. We're getting a little more bad data here, so we'll get off of that for just a moment and go back to our regular radar here. Just about our entire viewing area under a severe thunderstorm warning at this point, with the exception of eastern Mercer and eastern Lawrence. No warnings there yet, but you'll probably be put under one here before the 10 o'clock hour is through. All of Trumbull, all of Mahoning, all of Columbiana under a severe thunderstorm warning. For those who are watching on the stream on YouTube and Facebook, I'm going to show you real quickly here the power outage situation. Let's actually go to this site and show you the power outage situation in the state of Ohio. You can see where all the power outages have occurred and are still in effect, or still occurring, I should say, in western Ohio, the counties out there. But there's a lot of counties also in northern Ohio with some power outages, and we're even seeing a smattering now of power outages as the line continues to push east. None reported thus far in our TV viewing area, but I wouldn't be surprised if that changes, certainly, as we go into the next half an hour or so as this line continues pushing out to the east. But some of those counties in western Ohio, there's Darke County, which is near the Indiana state line. 40% of customers there are without power. So this line has had a history of producing some nasty, nasty weather as it's come east. That is for sure. Coming up on 10:17, thanks to everyone for joining us. I don't have time to get to all your comments here live during the stream in situations like this where we have so many warnings. But I see there's a lot of comments on YouTube and on Facebook as well. Thanks to everyone for chiming in. I can't, answer in each one individually, but I really appreciate it. Appreciate the viewership and the engagement as well. For those just joining us here at 10:18, we have a line of severe thunderstorms pushing through. The line itself is strongest in its northern areas, or northern fringes, I should say, north of I-80 especially. But the line is still at least strong, if not potentially severe, south of there, coming into western Mahoning, western Columbiana as well. This line is moving east at about 50 miles per hour. That would put it on track to approach the state line probably between 10:45 and 11. And out of our viewing area east of I-79 in Mercer and Lawrence counties probably by 11:15 to 11:20. This line is booking pretty quickly. It's had a history of producing wind damage, occasional gusts of 50 plus miles per hour. We're going to keep this live stream going for a little while, and then assuming we don't have any tornado warnings at that point, we'll stop the live stream so we can get ready for 21 News at 11. So if you're going to stay up, I hope you'll tune in to our newscast wherever you usually watch us, whether it be on old school TV or on streaming devices and our apps as well. Hope you have our apps downloaded. We think the Storm Tracker 21 app is the best weather app for our area, and the 21 News app also is fantastic. It has some weather information on it, but of course it's largely a news app, but we do post some weather information on the 21 News app as well. Again, this is the area I'm most concerned with, this northern area that's moving through Warren, heading through Cortland, across the lake into Mecca along Route 88. The Route 87 corridor, also an extreme northern trouble, is under the gun for some frequent lightning and some gusty winds as we speak, and this is coming into Kinsman in just a couple of minutes. This is coming into Johnston here before too much longer as well. Niles, you've only got a couple of minutes before this pushes into your area. I'm actually going to activate our Niles camera so we can watch this come into Niles here in the next couple of minutes. All right, so now when we go to... Bear with me for just a second while I bring up our Niles camera. All right, our banner here will say Boardman, but this is Niles. I didn't have time to change the banner, but ignore the banner that says Boardman. This is, of course, Niles. This is across from Eastwood Mall. This is Route 422, and basically we're looking west-northwest here, kind of towards the Warren area. And, conditions don't look too bad right now, but in a couple of minutes, this radar view, or this camera view, I should say, will likely look quite a bit different. So we'll keep an eye on that camera. We'll keep an eye on our other cameras as well. We've got streaming cameras in Youngstown, in Columbiana, and in Boardman as well. And as this comes across, especially the Boardman camera should get a very nice view of this beefy line of storms pushing across. All right, let's kind of go to our viewing area, kind of home base view here, and I'll take off the warnings. Pretty much everyone who can watch us on TV is under a warning at this point, with the exception of eastern Mercer and northeastern Lawrence. Here's a look at our line as of 10:20 p.m. Moving into kind of the central and western parts of our viewing area. The line is probably most severe from Warren on north through the Mosquito Lake area, through the Cortland and Mecca areas, and up into Ashtabula County, but the line is probably still strong enough to produce some pretty strong puffs of wind off to the south. This is coming into Sebring and Beloit right now, Hanoverton right now as well. And only a few minutes from now it'll come into Salem, into Ellsworth, and then a few minutes after that into Austintown, and eventually into the greater Youngstown area as well. In addition to the straight line wind threat, regular winds, if you will, we're keeping a close eye on the radar data to make sure that we don't have any spin-up tornado possibilities, as you sometimes have in a line like this. So we had a few tornado warnings earlier along this line as it moved through central and western Ohio. We had a few severe tornado warnings, I should say, in our viewing area earlier on today with isolated activity during the 6 and 7 o'clock hours, first in southwestern Mahoning and then in northeastern Columbiana, southwestern Lawrence. A couple of supercell kind of lone wolf thunderstorms moved through and had some pretty vivid rotation with them. Now, thankfully, it looks like a tornado did not touch the ground, but we saw a lot of really interesting pictures and video from a couple of those storms from earlier on. I think the overall tornado risk is pretty low from here on out tonight, but we'll keep an eye on everything as it comes east. Straight line winds, though, that's definitely a threat. This is, booking it. It's coming towards the state line here between Trumbull and Mercer, the county line, the state line. It'll be coming towards that state line here in the next 20 minutes, so it's already coming through Cortland, heads up in Hartford, Kinsman, Yankee Lake, Brookfield. This is all tracking your way. We're going to get an official observation from the Youngstown Warren Regional Airport here before too much longer as this line crosses the airport. So we'll see what the weather instrumentation showed as it moved through that location. But again, sampling some of these strong wind gusts. Moving through Mecca and Cortland and down towards Howland and Warren right now, the radar continues to sample 50-plus mile-per-hour winds. Some pretty substantial stuff. These are true severe thunderstorms. Weather Service mentioning that they're keeping an eye on a couple of cell mergers in northern Columbiana County. And the reason for keeping an eye on that is sometimes when you have a little bit of a cell merger situation going on, storms may try to rotate some. So we're going to keep an eye on some of this activity right here. I don't see anything on the radar data that is particularly compelling right now, but maybe let's bring up the Pittsburgh radar data here. Maybe we're going to keep an eye on this segment right here from Salem to New Garden. That will have to be watched in the next several minutes. That's a section we'll keep an eye on. Thanks to the National Weather Service in Pittsburgh for kind of giving us a heads up to keep an eye on that. All right, coming up here at the bottom of the hour, 10:30. We're coming up on it in a few minutes. Most of our concern with this line pushing through, of course, is just straight line winds, and I don't mean to qualify that with a just straight line winds. Straight line winds can be serious. In the short term, I'm going to keep an eye on some of this activity that's in Columbiana County right now. Nothing stands out as particularly imminent in terms of any rotation on our radar data, but a couple of mergers of different sections of this line, bear watching for possible rotation. Now, we're well past dark, of course, at this point, so you're not going to see this. If we get any sort of wall cloud or anything like that, unlike some of the activity that we had during the daylight hours today, this is going to be invisible to the eye, so don't go outside and look for this. If we raise the possibility of needing to seek shelter or find your safe location, don't take time to go out and look up in the sky. Take the advice seriously and go find your safe location whenever we say so. But we're not going to say that right now. We're just an early heads up that we're keeping an eye on a few things down in Columbiana County from Summitville and Hanoverton up Route 9 towards Salem. Couple of scans of the radar here have been a little more interesting in the last couple of minutes. The worst part of our northern section, and I think this is the worst part of the line overall, is moving through Kinsman right now. And so this is getting set to cross over into Mercer County here in the next handful of minutes. Again, everything's moving quickly, about 50 plus miles per hour. So heads up in Greenville. This is heading your way. Once you get off to the south, closer to Sharon, closer to the state line down here, Brookfield, Yankee Lake, places like that. Severe weather is certainly possible, even though the worst of that particular line segment may miss you to the north. Also, looks like the line is trying to perk up a little bit, kind of down here from Bergholz on northward. Again, east of Carrollton, closer to Salineville around Route 39. Heading up Route 9 from Carrollton all the way to Salem through the Hanoverton area. This section has perked up a little bit in the last handful of minutes. It looks a little stronger than it did earlier on, so we're gonna watch that pretty carefully in the next handful of minutes as well. I'll put the loop back on. It is 10:28. We're tracking this line moving eastward at about 50 miles per hour, or perhaps even a little higher in some segments. Weather Service relaying some storm reports here as this line moved through some areas to our south and west. Some trees down and power lines down in Tuscarawas County, New Cumberstown up to, where was that? Dover as well. Mentioned the official observation at the airport in Tuscarawas County. That's Harry Cleaver Airport in New Philly. The officially measured wind gust was not particularly impressive there, but this did do some work on some trees and power lines when it moved through Tuscarawas County earlier on. Here's where our line is right now. Heading into the central sections of Columbiana County from Salineville right up to Lisbon in the next couple of minutes, and then continuing to head off to the north. This is coming through Salem right now. It's coming into Ellsworth Township. Again, this looks to me like strong but possibly sub-severe, this section that's moving into Austintown. Not a lot of lightning and thunder with this particular section. There's a good puff of wind, no doubt, but maybe not as strong as some areas to the south of there and also to the north of there. Yeah, couple of kinks I want to keep my eye on here in the radar data down in Columbiana County. What I mean by kinks is, see these little kind of signatures right here where the line gets a little squiggly, or there's a little S shapes. Sometimes that can get our attention when it comes to the possibility of the line trying to rotate, certain segments of the line trying to rotate. So we're going to keep an eye on that part as it continues pushing to the east and impacts the eastern half of Columbiana, perhaps parts of southeastern Mahoning, and then eventually Lawrence as well. Last few scans of the radar, the last 5 minutes, that's gotten my attention a little bit more and more. So again, what I'm talking about is this activity right here, from Lisbon up to Salem, coming towards Columbiana. This is the wind velocity data we're looking at here, and looking off the Pittsburgh radar source. So the green colors are winds blowing towards Pittsburgh, and where you see this line getting a little squiggly, that to a trained eye means that maybe there's some very localized rotation trying to form along that line. Here's a look at our northern communities. This line is probably undergoing a little bit of modest weakening, I should say, as it gets set to cross the state line and impact Jamestown and Pymatuning Reservoir and heading over towards Greenville. Still a strong thunderstorm, possibly even severe, but maybe not quite as strong as it was 5-10 minutes ago. Mahoning County, I kind of suspect a lot of you in Mahoning County are kind of missing the boat in terms of true severe weather with this. A strong line of showers and storms, sure, but it looks like it's worse to your north and worse to your south. And we're going to give you the all clear in a few communities at this point. We'll take a moment here to give you the all clear. If you're near the Stark County line, if you're near the Portage County line, Sebring, Lake Milton, Craig Beach, Newton Falls, Southington, you're in the clear in all those communities. Just about in the clear in Lordstown, and in a couple minutes you'll be in the clear in Ellsworth. I think you're pretty much in the clear at this point in Warren. It's raining, there's some thunder and lightning, but the wind threat is mostly to your east at this point. But we're certainly not in the clear off to the south in Canfield, heading down towards Columbiana as well, and heading down towards Lisbon. And again, I've got my eye on some of this radar data now southeast of Salem, closer to Leetonia, coming into Columbiana. We may eventually see tornado warning issued for this part of the line. It's a very, very borderline call right now, in my estimation. The forecasters in the hot seat at the National Weather Service office in Pittsburgh will continue keeping an eye on this, and there's enough little bit of curvature or kind of kinks, if you will, in the line that it bears watching as this continues to push into the eastern half of Columbiana County, including places such as Elkton and West Point and Latonia and Columbiana, and eventually East Palestine all the way down towards East Liverpool. And again, just a reminder of what I'm talking about when I'm talking about these kind of squiggles or kicks in the line. We're going to look at the data that shows us how fast the wind is blowing and what direction the wind is blowing. And since we're in Columbiana County, we're going to use the radar data that's off the Pittsburgh National Weather Service Doppler radar. So all the green colors are winds that are blowing, of course, towards Pittsburgh. And, there's a few subtle little features right here that, I wouldn't issue a tornado warning for these right now, but every scan definitely bears watching for any tightening of any of that potential rotation. So, again, that's where my focus is going to mostly be in the next 5 or 10 minutes as this continues pushing into eastern Columbiana County. And again, this section of the line that may have a few squiggles on it may impact parts of southeastern Mahoning as well. So it ends up North Lima, New Middletown, Woodworth, places like that. And there's a look at the motion of our line as it continues to push off to the east. I think there's a couple of kinks in the line at this point that particularly bear watching. One is right around Lisbon. It's this kind of feature right here. And the other maybe just around Latonia or just east of there, kind of right here. These are two sections of the line in which, I'm going to keep an eye on, certainly. And what I mean by keep an eye on is that every scan of the radar bears watching to see if any possible rotation tightens up. Don't see much evidence of any sort of rotation or anything other than some strong winds in Mahoning County. Some strong winds coming into Austintown right now, Canfield and Boardman. This is coming in a couple of minutes. Youngstown in a couple of minutes as well. We're coming up on 10:37. Going to activate our Boardman camera so we can take a look at the Boardman area as this comes in. So a quick view of the camera I just activated. And you can see we're already rocking and rolling a little bit here with some strong winds coming into Boardman. This is our camera. This is perched upon a billboard outside of Walgreens, across from BJ's. McDonald's is through here, Men's Warehouse as well. This is the, of course, very busy intersection of Route 224 and Market Street in the heart of Boardman. And anytime the camera is wiggling like this, that usually means, of course, it's windy. So even though we've got a few more minutes until the line itself really pushes into Greater Boardman, already ahead of it, we're getting, some stout wind gusts, that is for sure. So that's the Boardman camera. Here's our severe thunderstorm warning for Columbiana County. Again, west of the main line, you're in the clear for the night from severe weather. Summitville, Hanoverton, New Franklin over towards the Stark line, New Garden, places like that. You're in the clear. Salem, you're just about in the clear, especially west and northwest of Salem. East of Salem, the line is pushing through as we speak. It's between Salem and Columbiana. There's a few areas worth watching still in terms of any possible rotation along this line as it moves through Lisbon and up towards Latonia and Columbiana. Nothing in the last scan or two of the radar looks any stronger than when I mentioned this a few minutes ago. Mahoning County, as we just saw on the Boardman camera, some strong winds pushing in here, but certainly a notable storm. But is it truly severe? It's probably pretty borderline. And then up in Trumbull and Mercer counties, here's a look at the strongest part of this line pushing into Greenville right now. This is impacting the reservoir up into the Jamestown area and southwestern of Crawford County. The line looks a little less severe off to the south and to the west. Going to bring up our latest observations from the Youngstown Warren Regional Airport. It looks like it gusted to 38 miles per hour at 10:32. So about 7 minutes ago, we had a 38 mile per hour gust at our official reporting station in Vienna. That's sub-severe. The definition of a severe thunderstorm: winds of 58 miles per hour or greater, hail of 1 inch in diameter or larger, and or a tornado. That's the official definition of a severe thunderstorm. So wind gusts of 38 or 40 are certainly noticeable. That's going to blow around loose objects and that sort of thing, but technically is sub-severe. Number of power outages back in Carroll County, reports the National Weather Service office in Pittsburgh. As the line pushed through Carroll County, again, several power outages there. Hope everyone had their devices charged up tonight, because it's possible as this line continues to push across that more locations will see a loss of power on a warm, sultry night like this. If you have air conditioning in your home or apartment and you're without it tonight because of a power outage, that would be a real bummer, because it is like Florida out there. It is warm and it is certainly quite muggy. And believe me, it's only going to get worse by Sunday and early next week. And again, I'm watching my radar sources here, both what I'm showing you visually and also off camera a little bit, and still watching a couple of what we call kinks in this line. Let's bring up radar data here off of the kind of the short range Pittsburgh radar. This is off of a radar source that is a little weaker. It doesn't travel as far, the beam doesn't go out as far, but it's closer to the state line and gives us a pretty good view of things that are getting pretty close to the state line. And the things I'm watching are this little kink right here, this one up here near Elk Run, closer to Columbiana. These little squiggles in the line, if they remain in the shape that they're in right now, I think we'll be okay. But if they tighten up a little bit, if these get a little more pronounced, then we may have new tornado warnings. We'll just have to see. But that's what we're definitely watching. Rain coming into Rock Camp here momentarily. It is pouring, absolutely pouring in Lisbon. It's coming into Elkton and Elk Run as well. Columbiana, you're about to get socked or getting socked in the greater Columbiana area as we speak. Same thing in Latonia. All clear in Salem. All clear from severe at this point if you're watching us from Berlin Center, Ellsworth, North Jackson, Lordstown, Warren, Southington, Champion, Bristol, Mecca. All those places you are in the clear. I think you're pretty much in the clear at this point down towards Vienna and Brookfield. It's raining hard, and there's still some puffs of wind, but the severe weather threat is probably about over in those locations. But hang in there a little while longer if you're watching us from Columbiana County in particular. This portion of the line, half an hour or so ago, did not look particularly strong, but it certainly looks stronger at this point as it moves through Columbiana County. And, we're still watching a couple of spots for any potential rotation as this comes towards East Liverpool and eventually comes towards Rogers and East Palestine and areas near the state line over into Ohioville, and into Hookstown as well, eventually Beaver Falls and Elwood City. I'm going to stick with the stream for another about 2 minutes, and then we're hitting 10:45, and I'm going to have to get ready for the 11 o'clock newscast. If we do have any tornado warnings that are issued, we'll get on the air immediately, of course, and have you covered there. So be sure you have a way to watch us on TV or online, whether it be old school TV or if you watch our newscast usually on the internet in some fashion, whether it be an old-fashioned website, WFMJ.com, or you watch us on one of our apps, including the 21 News app or the Storm Tracker 21 app. Our newscast, I should say, will be coming up in 15 minutes. At 11, we'll preempt the newscast for any tornado warnings, however. We don't have any tornado warnings in effect right now. If we were to get any, it would be for eastern Columbiana County and perhaps parts of Lawrence County as well, as that's the segment of the line that continues to try to show some signs of rotation. But here at 10:44, almost 10:45, we're gonna stop the live stream at this point as we get ready for the newscast. I wish you and yours a great and safe rest of your Wednesday night.